Morning. I usually try to wait a few seconds, but I get a little uncomfortable just sitting here. I don't know if anybody's out there this morning at 11:30. Hi, Chris. Just wait a few more seconds. All right, I try not to keep you guys on here too long. So, hi, Janice. I'd like to try to go ahead and get started because I know you guys can watch the replay later. So actually today we're again talking about shifting mindsets, but this time we're talking about shifting from a fear mindset to renewing your mind and shifting to a term I called brazenly bold. And my heart is pounding out of my chest right now. So which probably means that I need to share a personal story, which of course it's hard to say whether I'll cry or not. We'll see. But I am pretty intuitive. Like I'm that person that like I can feel your energy if we're around each other. And I like a very strong gut instinct, all of these things, right? So my daydreams, my night dreams really hold true to meaning a lot for me. So I had this dream last night that I don't know if it meant something to me or not, or if it was initially I was a little like, I don't get it. I was like, God, I don't get it. I really don't. But the dream starts and it seemed like a race somehow. So we're somewhere, because I live in Texas, so it's some big farmland. And there's this road that comes through, well, I don't even know if it was a town or not, but it was mostly just like farmland. And there was this road that was coming between the farmland. Hey, Jamie. And I'm running. And there's this guy in front of me that's in a blue sweatshirt, and he has black hair. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a Hispanic guy. I don't know why I'm thinking of all of this in my dream. I have no idea while I'm asleep. And there's the Hispanic guy running in front of me, black hair, blue sweater, dark jeans. Running behind him is a Caucasian man with blonde hair. And I was like, okay, why do all of these colors matter? It's a dream. But then, and I'm starting to shake, so that means I must need to share this story. The Hispanic man lays down face forward onto the pavement. But when he gets up, he's holding a gun. And he waves the gun in front of all of us because there's all these people running or walking behind me, and he waves the gun. He waves the gun in front of all of us, and everybody freezes. Everybody stops. But then I stop for like maybe 2 seconds, but then I turn around and I start running. And I'm like, either he's going to kill us all or he's going to have to shoot me in the back. And I know subconsciously, I know this is a fear of mine, being caught somewhere where I can't do anything and the shooter is in my face. And I mean, this is something that's happening all over America now, every single day, more than we could have ever imagined, right? But so I run, I turn my back to this man, and I am running through, because there's really no destination, because there's really nothing out here in this farmland. And I say, he's going to have to shoot me in the back because I'm taking a run for it. And then I run, and then I end up in my hairstylist's chair at the end of the dream. But it's weird because she's acting funny. She doesn't actually wash my hair. My hair's already dry when I go in, of course. And so she dries my hair again and then goes to the bowl to wash my hair. And I'm like, hey, you were supposed to wash my hair first and then the dream ends. And then I go to the hairstylist today, and I'm shaking a lot. It turns out that the dream was about her, that I was her in the dream. So it turns out that I've only been in Houston 2 years. 2 years, maybe 2.5 at most. So I've only known my hairstylist 2 years. This happened 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, do you guys hear me? 5 or 6 years ago. She says she went into a hair salon, or not even a hair salon, it was a hair store, so like a Sally's or whatever. She goes in, this guy seems weird, she says. He's walking around, and she thought he was Caucasian. He's walking around, he's fiddling, picking things up, and she's like, this is weird. Why is he walking around and, you know, he looks like he was out of place? And she said she remembers that gut, that feeling that said intuitively that something doesn't seem right, but she didn't leave. And that's what she told me. She didn't leave. And she said the guy appeared like he was Caucasian. Turns out, she showed me the story. Oh, I didn't tell you guys. The Hispanic man in the dream is wearing a blue sweater. So she tells me later that, well, when I looked up the story online, because this guy had gone and burglarized like a Sally's, pizza place, and a Sonic, all these places before he hit the place where she was at. And she tells me he had a blue flame on his calf. And I'm thinking, what? Because of course the color blue was very prominent in this dream for me. And then in what was online, they said the man was the suspect was a Hispanic male. And she thought he was Caucasian, but guess what? He was dyeing his hair, they said a reddish blonde color. And the Hispanic man, he was ahead. He had the gun. And the blonde Caucasian guy was running behind him in my dream. And so she's standing there going, why does this sound so familiar? And it's because it happened to her. This was a dream where I was her. And she said she had the exact visceral reaction. The guy was standing behind her with the gun at her back saying, you know, I want the money. The manager of this beauty supply store runs in the back, locks the door, and everybody is frozen. Everybody is standing in front of the register. They can't move. They are petrified in fear and cannot move. She said she dropped her things while the suspect ran behind the register. So he was trying to get money out of the drawer. So it would have taken a lot for him to grab the gun and then try to shoot her. She dropped all of her stuff and ran out of the door. And she said the exact words that I said. She was like, he's going to kill us all, or he's going to have to shoot me in the back because I'm making a run for it. And I'm like, God, it blows my mind because I'm thinking this intuition thing is a real thing. And fear is a real thing too. She said she has not stepped in that Sally beauty supply store ever again. Not a beauty supply anywhere ever again. And she said that she hadn't actually dealt with what had happened that day. She tried to just dismiss it and pass it off until it came up today. This is 5 or 6 later, guys. 5 or 6 years later. I didn't even know her 5 or 6 years ago. So she's sitting here thinking, crap, you're telling me about a story that actually happened to me and we didn't even know each other then. And so, long story short, we're talking about a fear mindset and moving to a place of renewing your mind and really being more brazenly bold in life, because she decided not to go and testify all these things, and now she's wondering, why are these things coming up again? Why is someone that I know but didn't know then, why is it coming up again? You know? And so fear is a big thing in our lives, and it's hard to overcome sometimes. And for me, it was a fear of, as well, being caught in a situation where there's a gun and I freeze. But in this film, or this dream, basically, I make a run for it. But turns out I was her in that dream. So she's like, when you figure out what it means, let me know. And I'm like, child. I'm like, the intuition is hardcore for me. So, well, now that I've told you that story, let's kind of get into what the meat of what we're talking about today, which is the fear mindset. And actually, I want to tell you another brief story, but it's one that I saw online while I was going through my journey. So we're gonna shift gears a little bit. I feel like I had to tell you guys that just because we were talking about fear and I was shaking, and then now I told you and the shaking has stopped. So it is what it is for me. I don't know who else needed to hear that, but there it is. I'm laying it down, guys. So the next story is about, it's a young woman that she's about like 28, 29 years old, right? She's living this fabulous life. She's a young woman living in Chicago, living in a fabulous apartment. And of course, she's looking to buy fabulous furniture for this great apartment. And so she is spending all of this money trying to refurbish and make this apartment a home. And she would always say in this film, it was like a little clip of her debt-free journey. And she would say, I always like to make things that were old new again. And so she would take like distressed lights and tables and refurbish them. She would sand them down and repaint them and make them like new. That was what she liked to do. And we'll kind of get back to that a little bit later. But she ended up, charging up her credit cards 1, 2, 3 times. 3 times over, she's charging up these credit cards until she was finally like, I'm done. So she ends up cutting up her credit cards and then never using those again. And then it ends up that she pays off $120,000 in just a little bit over a year. And it's like she used the term, and I wrote it down, so I'm like, she said if she ever lost her job, and it was that thing, when you lose your job or you feel like you could lose your job, you're afraid. You're fearful of the possibility that could happen. But she said after she paid off her, her debt, it came to a place where she felt every day she went into work, she felt brazenly bold. She felt brazen. And like something about that is a little aggressive, but it's like you stand taller and firmer. And it brought me back to the words she said before when she took an old mindset and old habits and old furniture and she sanded it out and she polished it. And she took the old mindset and the old habits and transformed them into a renewed mind and spirit, and then made those new again. And that was how she ended up being able to pay off those student loans. And so it's just a thought process. Just think about what fear does to us every day and how it holds us back. And so we'll be talking about fear mindset and so false evidence appearing real. Okay? So one of the biggest fears that a lot of us have is that we just have a fear of missing out. We don't want to miss the big vacations, the great dinners with friends, or the latest iPhone, or the biggest TV that we could watch sports on. We don't want to miss that, right? But we know that we have to both take responsibility and ownership of the past and the present mistakes that we've made financially. And that's how we get to the point of having a future successes with money, right? So you just have to understand that, you have to make changes, and no one likes to hear it, but sacrifices as well for the betterment of yourself and getting closer to where you want to be financially. And then the second one is the fear of not being able to take control of your finances. We have no belief. I mean, I don't really know how else to say that, but we don't have any belief in ourselves and what we're actually capable of. Like, you don't believe you can actually change and do better, and it's holding you back. I mean, that's something really important for us to really sit with, to really understand that we're afraid of change. Most of the times we are. We're afraid of change. And it's just the fear of not being able to take control. And it's congruent for me in the fact that, so you don't think you can take control, there's no belief, and the words that we say to ourselves that say we don't believe. Because my coach always says, what you think about, you speak about. What you speak about, you be about. And what you be about, you are. So the words that you're even just telling yourself and your belief can shift your mindset. So if you're always, well, I can't pay that off, I don't have enough money, there isn't enough time. All of those things lead to actually what you believe. And it shifts your mindset. And I mean, that's all there is to it, really. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of what they call, so there's a water experiment, there's also an apple experiment. But you take two halves of an apple, you place it in a mason jar, so you seal that tight, and you leave it on the shelf in your kitchen. But then one apple you label as love, joy, happiness, all these things, right? And the other apple you label negative words, where whatever it is, scum, idiot, ridiculous, whatever you want to, right? And so every day, though, you open these mason jars and you talk to the apple. So you talk to the apple, and to the love, happy apple, you talk only positive, great, uplifting things. To the negative apple, you call it an idiot, a dork, whatever else you can think of that is negative. But the point is that when I have seen this done online, that negative apple grows mold much more quickly than that positive apple. So if we think of that like how we think of our brain, so if you're all day telling yourself positive things, so really like affirmations, I am smart, I am kind, I am loving, maybe I'm a great pharmacist at work, or whatever the case may be. You're feeding your mind and you're feeding your spirit, and you're shifting your mindset into what you believe that you're capable of doing. But if you're feeding yourself negative words and negative affirmations all day, why do we expect, because we always hear that phrase, why do you expect to have a positive life if you're always feeding your life negative things? It's exactly that. How can you expect great things when your mind isn't shaped up, basically? Okay? And so when I was in my debt-free journey, I had to change my words. I had to change my words from, no, I can't, I'm going to die with this debt. Because I did. It was like I was chained and bound to my debt and to my past mistakes. I was chained to that. And so I said, when I was 25, I was like, I'm going to carry this debt to the grave, so I'm not really worried about it. But not until just a few years ago, and I changed the no, I can't, and it'll never happen, and I'm going to take it to my grave, to I can, and I will, and I'm going to do it in this time frame, no matter what it takes. Not until then did I ever do it, which is why I carried it with me for 9 years. I carried the debt with me for 9 years. Why? Because of my words, because of my belief in me. And so I hope you guys see yourself in that. The third one is fear your children will have the same poor money management skills that you had when you were young. And I don't have kids, but I could believe that you want more for your kids than you had. In every aspect of life, you want them to have more. You want them to be more. You want them to just want more. I can imagine that's true. If I had kids, I'm sure I would want that as well. And it's like you understand that how you're currently managing your finances, they won't be able to pave the way for your child to create those consistent money management habits that you wish you had. And it'll be more difficult because you're like, okay, well, if they continue how I continued with my money management habits, will they be able to build wealth in the future? Will they? I mean, and you're asking yourself that. I'm sure you are, because if you're thinking about your own habits, you're thinking about, okay, well, what am I teaching my kids? And then, of course, you want to be careful with, you want to teach your kids, too, how to overcome the obstacles. Because being in debt, it's an obstacle. It stands in your way. It stands in your way from being able to build wealth in the future and being able to be financially independent. So it's important to be able to, I've heard this phrase recently, where when there's an obstacle, it arises and you go under it, over it, or through it. But you just can't stand there. And it makes me think, in that dream, I made a decision that although I was the hairstylist, I was my friend, I decided to run. I decided to run. I was like, I can't just stand here and do nothing. He's too far away to basically bum rush. So I'm going to run. You have to decide to run. You have to decide to make a commitment to running, to really saying, I'm going to take control. I'm going to teach my kids the way I wish I was taught. So there's some decisions in there. And I guess there's a small example where during Hurricane Harvey in Houston, it was August, I believe, but my family and I were blessed because the houses were fine. My dad lost his truck, but in the grand scheme of life, it was minuscule, right? And then I ended up getting water in my gas tank, not but a week later. And really the only issue is that I was like, okay, well, I was going to pay $1,200 towards my debt that month because I was so close. This was September by that time. By December, I was supposed to be done paying off $100,000. And I was so close. And I knew that, okay, when that gas was in my tank, it put me behind by another $2,000, $2,500. But in that moment, after they picked up my car, put it on a flatbed, and took it away, and they called me later to say, you have water in your gas tank. And I'm like, really? Really? But it put a fight in me. It was like I decided to pick up and run, but run towards something. Because I was like, I'm running towards something. I have a goal. I have goals that I have set that I intend to meet, regardless of if this puts, because it put me about $2,500 behind where I wanted to be in order to pay off my student loans by December. I was like, I'm running. When I say I was walking around the house screaming, my sister was like, what is wrong with you, chick? I was running around and I was like, the devil is a lie because this is not standing in my way. I'm doing whatever it takes. And it's like, that's the attitude you guys have to have when it comes to your money. I'm doing whatever it takes to change my financial future and all the generations to come. My kids, their kids' kids, because it matters. So it's like, you have to get up and run. And I'm like, they call it take it by the horns, let's go. And that's what I was walking around saying. I was like, oh, Jesus, the devil is a lie because I'm doing this anyways. And like, you think you're going to be an obstacle, but I'm moving right through you. And you have to make a decision to do that. You have to make a decision to do that. Okay, guys, the last one is 4. The fear of how your family and friends will react, what they'll think, what they'll say. What will they think and say of you changing your money habits or, scrimping and saving? What will they say? What will they think? And I mean, this consumes us in so many areas of our life, and finances is definitely one of them. Because I remember thinking because my dad, he's my money guru, right? So it's like, I feel like I always need his, I don't know if I'd say permission, but I need him to have my back. When I say, okay, guess what? I'm going to use my, I'm trying to think, what did I do? I was trying to use my bonds. I had some college bonds or whatever, education bonds that I had from way back in the day. He was like, no, you should save them so you can do some professional education, this, that, and the other. And I was like, Daddy, I don't want to. I was like, if I want to do some professional education, I can save for that. But that'll be later. I was like, we're not there yet. And when I say I had to come up with I had a podcast that I listened to that told me, okay, well, bonds are, the ROI for bonds is really not that good right now. Go ahead and cash them out. And then I was like, how can I convince my dad of this? But it was that need to have him really believe, because I finally was at the point where I believed in myself, but it's like I needed him to believe, okay, she's going to use these for something good. And I did. I felt like I needed his approval. I mean, more than I really wanted to admit, I felt like I needed his approval and for him to have my back. And sometimes it's better if you just go for it. And I mean, you want to be wise and, you want to get someone's opinion, yes, that you admire and they are wise and he is both of those things. But sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to run for it. And my sister asked me a dozen times. She was like, "So you have $30,000 left. How the heck are you going to pay that off for the next 3 months?" I remember telling her, "Girl, I don't really know. Have a plan, but it doesn't really show me that this can happen." But I was going for it anyways. And she was like, "So what if Daddy says no? What if he's like, no, you shouldn't use your bonds for that. What are you going to do?" I was like, "I'm going to do what I have to do because it's time. It's time. It's time to take control. And I want you guys to take control." So that's really the end. How you would shift from a fear mindset to being brazenly bold. And it's like when you sit down and you look at your finances and you decide, hey, I'm going to do me instead of everybody else, make a run for it and be brazenly bold. Let's see if there's questions. Hi, Nicole. All you guys are on here. Breaking generational curses of financial poverty and impoverished mindsets. I believe in it. Me too. Me too. It is so necessary. It is something that will continue. Exactly. Generational curses. It will continue from generation to generation. It's like, but we can decide to stop it. We can. And we think, oh, it's such a hard decision to decide whether it's really not. Because when you decide, you commit to it, and then you go for it by any means necessary. Because it's worth it. And I'm a living testament. It's worth it. It really is. It really is. Anybody have any other questions? I kind of felt like I was a little everywhere today, but that's okay. Hopefully you guys got out of it what you needed to get out of it. So no questions. Chris, Janice, Jamie, Natalie Marie, Terry, Nicole. All right, girls. Well, I won't hold you on here too long. Oh my goodness, I actually made almost 30 minutes. Stranger things have happened. Have a good Wednesday, guys. Bye.